Hey everyone, in this episode of Project i30N, we're installing some performance parts to the engine of our Hyundai i30N to improve its track credentials. Driving my i30N race car in the Super Cheap Auto TCR series, I know that going fast isn't just about one corner or one straight. The car needs to go quick over one flying lap for qualifying and multiple laps for a race. Basically, it needs to be reliable and repeatable. The same as what you want in a street car that you use for track days. The biggest thing that determines consistency in a car's performance on the road or the track is heat management. Basically, as things get hot, performance is lost, and in Australia, our sometimes extreme conditions mean this can be even worse. So, in this episode, we're going to address temperature management. Some bits will help it make more power, but all of them will help with temperature control out on the track. When it came to choosing some performance and cooling parts, we went with Australia's own IFX, as they provide great fitment with a clean, finished look worthy of a new car. The IFX parts don't require any cutting and fit like OEM components, making modifications simple and straightforward. The IFX intercooler is thinner and shorter than factory, but much taller, and uses a lightweight tube and fin core, giving it greater overall volume, but more importantly, having a much larger frontal surface area, reducing heat soak and having a faster recovery time. The intercooler doesn't so much increase the peak power potential, but rather ensures the car doesn't lose any performance from heat soak and keeps power levels consistent. The IFX engine oil cooler kit is designed to mount behind the intercooler where the factory i30N intercooler was mounted. This design is smart because the oil cooler is mounted inside the radiator fan shroud and has a consistent air drawing through it. Aside from great cooling, the added bonus is that the cooler and lines add extra oil capacity, further helping engine oil cooling. The IFX intake replaces the factory plastic intake with ribs in it to a smoother metal pipe and swaps out the panel filter for a higher flowing pod filter. The intake incorporates into the factory air scoop to ensure it still receives fresh air, and the rubber strip on the top seals against the bonnet when closed, making it a sealed airbox. The intake kit won't necessarily make more power, but it does increase induction noise and make the car sound better. The first step is disassembling the front end, with the front bumper, crash bar and plastic ducting all being removed. The airbox is removed before the car is hoisted up, and the intercooler pipes and factory intercooler is removed. The oil cooler and its ducting is now installed where the factory intercooler used to be. The transmission cooler needs to be removed and spaces for it installed, then the intercooler goes on. Next up are the intercooler pipes and the air guides before the spaces for the crash bar are installed. These space the crash bar forward to clear the intercooler. The crash bar is then installed before the lower bar is swapped out for the IFX one. The upper ducting goes back on before we prepare the new IFX airbox and intake. The factory plastic snorkel goes into the IFX airbox and installed into the car. Then it's the intake pipe, filter, fittings, and engine cover back on. The finished result is very neat, and you can see how the rubber strips seal up against the bonnet to keep hot air out of the airbox. Then the front bumper goes back on. Then the car is hoisted up so the oil can be drained and the filter removed. A sandwich plate is then installed to be joined up to the oil cooler lines before another stock oil filter goes back on. With the oil drained, it was the perfect time to top the engine up with some Newlon race oil, ready for the track. Well, that's it for episode 3 of Project i30N. In our next episode, we give the car a whole new look. So don't forget, one lucky person will get to win this i30N. Simply go in a store and spend $60 or more on Newlon products with your Super Cheap Auto Club membership and automatically go into the draw. Keep your eye on the Super Cheap Auto and Newlon Facebook pages for some cool videos on the race car versus the street car and more information on the draw. See you next time.